Tonight, we're talking about an artist with trumpet lines that often feel more like whispers or warnings than declarations. He has collaborated with some of ECM's biggest artists and has become known for his immersive and often cinematic shows where sound design plays a crucial role of improvisation. Tonight, we're talking about none other than Nels Potter Mulvar, and the album is Solid Ether from the year 2000. How's everyone doing?
Doing real good, thank you. Ready to rock and roll and with jazz.
Yeah, doing well. It's good to see you guys tonight.
Yeah, you too.
It's been a whole week. Usually we would have talked or text or something, but seems like none of the communication was working this week, or we just didn't make it work this week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see your smiling faces.
I think the album kept us busy this week. I think that's what it was.
I'm always curious. You know, Matt and I used to text and call about this all the time. Dad didn't even drop anything about it. So
no,
crickets from the Peanuts Gallery.
It's been a quiet week.
Yeah, I've been busy listening to that and our new artist of the week. So
good deal.
Yep. Well, let's go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was going to not say much of anything again.
Well, then, what do you say? Do we get into the conversation about Solid Ether and check out some audio clips that may have sparked our interest in this album and maybe a few other albums by him?
Let's go.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go. Let's start with some clips.
Awesome. Who wants to start? Who's first? Who's on first?
I'm on first.
All right.
I got song number 6 on the album. The song name is Trip. And please start me right at 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Play me about a minute. This will set the tone for the entire discussion of tonight. Should set the tone.
I'll stop it right there.
Okay, cool. I like it because it mixes genres. There's some techno in there. There's some almost a hip hop feel, and then Nils comes in with the soft tone that he's got on the horn. He doesn't seem to overblow on this album whatsoever. I mean, he keeps it in the mid range. You know, never getting up in the stratosphere, never going way down in the deep end of the horn. He keeps it right in the middle, and he doesn't have to overplay, but he's clear and concise at what he wants to say and how he wants it to come across. So just sets the tone. You know, you get that heavy backbeat from the drums and the rhythm section going on, laying down almost the foundation for the rest of the song, and he just comes in and shows you what he's going to do. That's what I thought.
There was also, for me, some rock and roll kind of sound early in the clip.
Yeah.
So,
What do you think, Drew?
The entire album, and I think you said it right, it kind of sets the mood and the pace for what we're about to experience, or for those of you who've already listened to the album. It really does solidify what his sound is. There's so much that all week I kept listening to this album and several others. And I kept in the back of my head thinking, this is where Miles was going to be going. This could have been the 2000 Miles. Listening to the way in which Nels never overplayed. He never overblew either. He was just kind of in the sweet spot, picked the right note at the right time to make the sound. On this album, he played the trumpet, the piccolo trumpet, the electronic trumpet, synthesizer, bass, loops, electronic, sampler, effects, percussion, piano, synth bass, the whole list of things, and the vocoder trumpet. So there's some very unique sounds coming from his horn. I kind of think about where Miles would have gone with Hendrix,
Hendrix,
if he had
yeah.
ever played like that. The other thing that I appreciated was, Dad, you mentioned it, that rock sound in there. Evan Arset. Sorry, we're going to slaughter the pronunciation of all these names, except for DJ Strange Fruit. That one I got. But listening to his guitar player and, of course, his bass player in this, just a beautiful sample of what we're in for. It really was. Dad, what about you?
Okay. The Gote, again, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but I'd like that to be played starting at 4:40 and play at least a minute.
So
Please.
you want to hear song number 5,
Yep.
Yeah.
Lagotage.
Yeah,
Lagoti.
the goatee.
It's coming back, baby. It's coming back.
Yeah.
Starting at 4:40. Here we go. Yeah, that's an awesome clip.
Yeah.
So yeah, this clip is representative of so many of the other clips, so many other tracks on this album, where you get a range of the other musicians playing, and then Nels comes in with his spot-on trumpet. The tone, the quality, the craftsmanship is just a high level. And that's one of the reasons I chose this, because, again, we hear all the other musicians as the other tracks as well. So I especially like this track.
I made some notes while it was playing, again, just because it comes to my mind while I'm listening to it. But it's very Ibrahim Malouf-ish, that sound of that track. If you like Ibrahim Malouf, you know, and you could dig on Nils as well, because it reminds me a lot of how Ibrahim sounds.
There is a lot of his sound coming through on that Ibrahim.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I appreciated about the particular album that we've listened to this week, is that he's got a sound that covers a multitude of what we're used to. We've heard a trumpet player do these things like Ibrahim. We've heard Miles. We've heard and we've heard the Hard Boppers as well, coming off of Lee Morgan last week. He's got that talent and that style. He blended it so well with, I almost thought about death metal in that. This is a Marilyn Manson kind of heavy rock beat, and then that soft trumpet just jumps right up on top of it.
That was That was one of my very first notes during my very first listen to of this album. I wrote industrial.
Yes, yes.
It's a very industrial sounding clip that you played, Dad.
It is.
Okay, good. Glad you liked it.
I did. I liked it. Yeah, it was a good clip. All right, Drew, what about you? What do you got?
I wanted to hear Kakonita, which is song number 4 on the album. I'm going to the lighter side. Matt kind of shoots down the middle. Dad goes to the industrial, and I'm going to go to the smooth flow here. Some easy jazz listening. So I'm going to start at 110. Very ballad style piece to me. That's what I really thought about it. Slow, easy listening, but more importantly, it had such a dramatic feel to it. I kept coming back to some of the ideas of approachability. You know, you hear him play and you think that almost anybody with a synthesizer could play the chords and play their horn over it. And one of the things I've appreciated doing lately is, you know, in my warm-ups, I'll pick a key. I'm working through my minors right now, so I've been in F minor recently. Okay, those are the notes that I'm going to play, so play something slow, easy. Doesn't have to be blues, it doesn't have to be jazz, but just play some notes in that key. Can you make a song out of the scale, if you will? That's what I heard in that song, is somebody just playing a song with some chords playing on the synthesizer behind it. And I, by the way, I learned something in my book this week. Solo 1, which was a Kenny Wheeler solo on one of his albums, is a flugelhorn solo that in the middle of recording, Alfred said at ECM, just play a solo for me and we'll record it. Have you been working on something? He says, I got this motif. He says, then hit record and I'll play something. So solo 1 from Kenny Wheeler was just that, him tooling around on his instrument. That's what I heard in this audio clip. Just the smooth, easy, no pressure to hit record, no pressure for a professional song, just fun. So that's why I chose that.
The note that I made right as you were playing the clip, and again, I've listened to the album multiple times this week. The note that I just made, chamber music.
With
reminds
the
me
tuba.
Yep, it totally reminds me of you could be listening to a chamber piece at this point, and the chamber in the background, and Nels just playing his cadenza over the chamber music.
Mm-hmm. And it's almost melancholic as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not a slam on it at all, but chamber and mellow, slow and easy. Yeah, that's a good track.
Good track.
Yeah.
Just like I've said for 111 weeks now, whatever you do, do it to jazz. You're going to hear in our week in music coming up in just a little bit. That's pretty much what we do. We listen to jazz all week. This week's kind of been an exception for me, but I'll talk about that more in just a little bit. Of course, tonight we are talking about Nils Petter Molvar. I did put a copy of the artwork on the slide here. The name of the album is Solid Ether. It's from the year 2000. I like the artwork. It's again, you could take the ECM off of the artwork and you would know that it's an ECM label just by the artwork. I dig that about ECM. They keep their looks consistent. Not every album looks the same, but it all has an overall general feel. So I dig the artwork. Guys, what do you think?
I was intrigued by it, wondering what setting it was done in, with a night setting, coming out of a stadium or going into a stadium.
Looks like they're coming off an airplane.
An airplane, okay.
Yeah. Somebody sitting in the bus waiting for them to get on the bus off of the
Okay.
airplane. That's what I see.
Yeah,
Drew?
okay.
What do you see?
Sitting in an airport, the airplane in the background with the lights
Yeah.
above it, kind of indicate, yeah, we're unboarding, possibly on back into the airport.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I now I can make out.
It's tough to see that airplane. It's also ice and snow all around.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they've pulled up on the tarmac and
Yeah, and it definitely looks like they're offboarding. Getting
Yeah,
off
well-
the plane, walking into the terminal.
And Niles is Norwegian, and the long coats, it looks cold. And yeah, I would think they'd be
This-
bustling and hustling to get into the airport, the hangar, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, my brief bio about Nils. Claimed that he's the pioneer of future jazz, and again, that was just on the wiki page that I was reading. I was reading some information about Nils, and one of the critics pioneered him, the pioneer of future jazz. So I'm not sure that the year 2000 we're into the future jazz just yet, but I like it anyways. I mean, it's a good term, future jazz. He was a sideman on several other ECM recordings before 1997, and his first solo release of Khmer, or Mir, Kmer. How do you say it, Drew? You said it a different
I
way.
said it earlier.
You
Yeah, I
said
said Kemmer.
Kmer. Yeah, I like Khmer. Hey, come here.
Come here,
Come here and listen.
come here.
Well, it's interesting, Matt, that you say the pioneer of future jazz, and that goes back to his first album in '96. So they were talking about that then. I can't imagine, 4 years prior to this album, were we really there with, first of all, with the electronic music?
Right.
We were starting with synthesizers and looping back then, but I laugh now, 2026. We're 30 years after that phrase came out of future jazz. There's still people doing loops back in the 90s, late 90s, but for him to blend a trumpet with it, I don't know. I can't remember that far that long ago. I was into different music then too, so was 96
True.
really
True.
blending this kind of style? I know the bands that existed in the metal and the rock and what existed there, but I didn't ever hear any trumpet players trying to do what he did. So I kind of think it is that future of jazz rock, but that was already established in 70s with In a Silent Way and Bitches Brew.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, Miles, I liked what you had said, and I didn't even think about it that way all week, where that's where Miles would have been if in the 90s, if he would have continued on the path that he was on. This is where I believe this is where he would have been. So Nils has won several awards. I didn't actually list them all. I mean, he's won 10 or 12 awards, and they're mostly Norwegian awards, and I would have butchered the names. So I left them off, but you can go research the awards he's won for sure. This album, Solid Ether, was his second solo release right after Khmer. And go check out Nils' website, nilspettermolvar.com. I was on the site quite a bit this week, just reading and checking stuff out. He's got some tour dates in Norway coming up. So, yeah, if you get a chance to fly over to Norway to see Nils play, man, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Now, I didn't find any quotes from Nils, but I did find some quotes about Nils. So, on the creation of his sound, The quoter said he described the process as an effort to merge diverse genres, instruments, and voices into a cohesive, organic sound. And that's one of the, I guess that's the best kind of quote that I could find from Nils about Nils, and how the sound is cohesive between the instruments. Even, you know, you hard bop, you can tell the difference between the tenor sax, the trumpet, and the piano banging, and the bass and the drums. I mean, you can tell all those differences. But some of these sounds on Nils's album merge in between. Is that a piccolo trumpet, or is that the synthesizer that's playing that? Or is he playing the electric drum kit there, or are they playing a real drum kit? So I like the way that it intersperses between the instrumentation on this album, especially on this album, to take you and kind of lead you through really paying attention and listening, focused on trying to pick out the instrumentation. So I don't know. That's just a good quote, I thought. I just want to say thank you for joining us on our journey. You know, we haven't said this in about 11 or 12 weeks, but you know, we finished the Jazzwise Top 100 and we never thought that would be the end of our journey. And what we're doing now is we're continuing our journey by using the list from the Nate Chinnon book, Playing Changes. Nate has 128 artists on his list that we're going to be covering, and you know, we're still on our jazz journey. And just because we're done with the
Top 100.
Yeah, the top 100, those albums, we have to keep going in our journey and learn even the newer stuff. So I'm thankful we're starting, you know, with this new journey in the newer jazz. And
Yeah.
you can always check out some information on our website, theunconnoisseur.com. We also have a radio station, WTUR.org, the WTUR radio channel. We also have a merch store that you can get to from the Unconnoisseur website. It's a merchandise link where you can get T-shirts and coffee mugs and mouse pads and iPhone covers and everything else. We were playing a game, This or That, for the last 10 weeks, and you can always go and put your vote in, this or that, on the unconnoisseur.com website. And for our podcasts, we do have podcasts as well. You can go and listen on Amazon, iTunes, and Spotify. Just ask them to play you the Unconnoisseur podcast. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and make sure you hit that bell so that you get notifications of when our new videos come out. So thanks for letting me do that just a little slideshow that I've been doing the last couple of weeks. I really appreciate just being able to talk about it and get the discussion started. So let's go. What else we got about Nils? Dad, what do you got?
Well, I've already mentioned that he's Norwegian.
Uh-huh.
And
does that influence come out in his music? Could you tell that he was Norwegian if you were just listening to the music?
I don't think so. Not for me anyway.
Yeah, especially on Solid Ether. I don't really find the Norwegian influence of the music.
But the other thing I said was about the album cover itself. But the overall, it's very interesting music. Last week, we highlighted an album from Scotland, an artist from Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how more often or how frequently we're going to be highlighting jazz artists from other countries. I think that'll be interesting to as we move forward. Let's every country, let's say so many countries have their own jazz style and their own particular jazz artists. So I like that. I like that idea. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Good.
Well, it seems like a map is now justified. Back in the top 100, going back to the beginning of jazz, it was the melting pot of world music that blended itself either out of New Orleans, then later into New York, then to the West Coast and L.A. So we saw the spread from the Delta blues, the rhythm and gospel. So we saw that spread from America's, Roland Kirk called it the black classical music. So then every country begins to get inspired and moved by some of this American music going to them. So it almost makes me wonder from how many regions will we get to listen to music? Whether it's the folk music that we listened to before, and I forget who blended their folk. Thomas Stanko, for example, we listened to a lot of him. So how many countries are we going to represent from 2000 and newer? And a lot of that comes with the availability of music. You know, we still get tagged that some territories aren't going to listen to the album or the music that we have broadcast. So how many countries are we going to actually see in the process of this?
Who is the trumpet player from Japan?
Takoya Kuroda.
Takoya Kuroda, yeah.
Yeah.
Beirut, you've got Ibrahim Malouf. So finding those trumpeters from Poland, from Astigmatic, that's what I'm trying to think about. I can see the title cover. What's his name?
Me too.
Kamita.
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 Yep.
So we'll see a lot more, and that goes to the spread of jazz. You know, we're coming up to, it's not nearly soon enough, but June is Texas Jazz and Blues Camp, and I'm starting to work through last year's videos. What are my highlights? How many people have been influenced by jazz over the last 50 years? And the records that went overseas to England during World War II. You think about how many different countries now have access to what we're listening to, and how many musicians since the 70s have started to play that music. Indo Sweet, Joe Harriet. You think about how important it is for, if it's a world type music being blended together, how many more of those worlds do we get to blend together?
Well, and the fact that a lot of American artists have gone overseas and played and sang the music over in Germany and UK and so many other places, that the jazz music from America has spread to so many other countries. To me, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, and I hate to pigeonhole jazz music, but I kept thinking all week this week, is this jazz? Is it jazz? It's interesting music, don't get me wrong, but is it jazz? Is there swing in here? Is there offbeat rhythms? Is there dissonance? You know, where help me find the jazz in Solid Ether. I hear techno. I made a lot of notes on my first listen to this week. I wrote the word modern and techno. I wrote it builds intensity throughout the album. The intensity builds throughout, even from song to song. The start of the song starts off nice and quiet, and then he builds intensity. The drums come in, and it widens out, and then it narrows back to finish the song. I wrote the word ethereal. It's, you know, I don't want to use the word mystic, but ethereal is a good other alternating term for mystic. But I kept coming back. It's a polarizing genre. This one is future jazz or modern jazz, new jazz. Is it new in you jazz? Help me figure out the classification of jazz here for Solid Ether.
You know, I'm glad you asked that question, because I felt some of the same as I listened to it initially and several other times through. What makes it jazz? Drew, what were you going to say?
I was going to tell Matt, don't look at me for an answer on that one, because I, just like you, what makes this jazz? Is it the fact that he named a couple of tracks or honored a couple of tracks for Wayne Shorter or Miles Davis? Maybe. He had played in late 80s, I think it was. I can't find it right now, with Jazz Punk Ensemblette. And I think there was probably more of a blending of jazz music with that rock group. It was 91 and 98 they recorded. You had more saxophones. You had trombones and trumpets. You had keys, drums, 3 sets of drums, 2 double basses, multiple sets of keys. So that was a little bit different group, and I did listen to both of those albums.
Did you listen to Masquerlo? Yeah, Mescalero
No.
is the other group that he was in
I didn't
from
listen to any of that.
83 to 1990. He was in a group called
Squirrel
Mescalero.
Musquelero. I did not.
I didn't either.
I'm wondering, go ahead, Drew.
No, sir.
I'm kind of wondering if we're interpreting jazz from an American perspective and not a Norwegian perspective.
That's why I appreciate the fact that you said that he's from Norway in the first place, and that we've been over there, teaching them what jazz music is, or showing them. Starting with Louis Armstrong, he was an ambassador to jazz. Dizzy was an ambassador to jazz. The Jazz Messengers were an ambassador to jazz in Europe, and how it made its way to Norway, and then how they interpret what we show them American jazz is. I get it.
It's weird though, because if I'm honest, how do you begin to define jazz? Here we are 3 years after we started this, and I remember Mom coming on and asking us that question. What is jazz? And if you start to put together your own personal answers, this is what I've learned, if anything. It goes against Roland Kirk's idea of black classical music. This was America's music, and from that stem, every stream goes outward. And as I get tight about what jazz should be, I start to hear the arguments that people have against Wynton Marsalis.
Mm-hmm.
This is what jazz is. This is not jazz. This is what jazz is. That's not. This is definitely not jazz. And in my head, all of a sudden, I'm becoming that guy too. Well, that's not jazz. But I have to remind both of us that we just left Lee Morgan last week.
Right.
And the hard bop sound, the true jazz that we have come to love and appreciate. And Nils is not quite that for us.
The thing is if somebody asked me, hey, what jazz do you listen to? I would say I listen to all jazz, but what jazz do I prefer? I mean, the blues and the abstract truth. Go there. That's my idea of jazz. Yeah. Bill Evans Trio, Sunday at the Village Vanguard. That's my idea of jazz. And just because it's my idea doesn't mean that it's
Jamal, but not for
me.
But not for me.
Something Else by Cannonball Adderley. That's my idea of jazz. Now, there are Nils Petter Molvar fans. Don't get me wrong. He's got a huge following, but I feel like this is polarizing because we could play the Wynton card here and say, yeah, this isn't jazz, but I don't want to do that because we've never done that before. But it was hard for me to find the jazz in this music this week, which made it kind of difficult to listen to. I mean, not that I wanted it to end. I didn't want it to end the album, but I kept thinking, man, I'm ready to go on to something that I can call jazz. So,
yeah, I like this part of the discussion because it does raise a lot of questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if Drew had an answer, we'd be set to go.
Yeah, we'd be all done with the discussion and we could rate this album. But
I could tell you this, and this is how I have to view it because I'm super excited about this Friday night. This Friday night at Central Market in the north side of town, Atlas Mayor is playing. I didn't get to see them at Monk's, and we had featured them just a few weeks ago about what's new. So they're playing an outdoor venue at Central Market, of all places. So I'm going to drag Lily up there. Atlas Mayor plays world jazz or world music. Would you call it jazz when you have a sitar and a saxophone side by side? When they play music that really resembles a lot of what we're arguing about. And I think that when we talk about jazz, the world domination of it, it's not just an American classical music anymore. Everybody has taken to it for the improvisation, the freedom. And that's the word I will say. The freedom to play music is how I might begin to identify what is jazz. It's not the note. You can't play a wrong note. It's the note after it that would be wrong. So if you don't feel it, you don't feel it. And
okay, so that answers our question right there. This is jazz because he does improv. The whole, most everything that I watched the YouTube, the Jazz Baltica 2023 concert, and it's an hour and 38 minutes of just Nils and the band. Most of it's improv, and it's cool. So it's cool to watch. Okay, and I keep remembering the Art Ensemble of Chicago discussion that we had. Not so great in the ear, but if you were at the show watching them perform, you'd be involved. You'd be on the edge of your seat waiting for what's next. And that's how I felt when I was watching the YouTube, the Jazz Baltica 23 concert on YouTube. I actually couldn't wait to see what was next. But then you put the album on and you don't have that visualization, and you're like, yeah, it's not the same. So I wrote in my notes, let your eyes take you on the journey of this album as well. Put that in my notes. Go watch the Jazz Baltica 23 concert with Nils, because it's a great light show. It features the band and it features Nils, and it's really cool to watch. I kept wondering, I made it in my notes this week, when am I going to put this on? What kind of mood am I going to be in where I'm going to recommend, or I'm not going to cook dinner to this music. I'm not going to mow the yard to this music. I'm not going to take a bike ride to this music.
Well,
When?
it's interesting you say that, though, because the first track to me, and I'll confess this, some of the Pat Metheny group has a percussion section that moves so fast that it raises my heart rate. I feel anxious. I feel, oh my goodness, will the drummer just slow down for a moment? I love Pat Metheny group and I love Third Eye, all of this, but the first track on this album did the same thing, and I thought, oh my goodness, I need not to listen to this album if it moves at this pace. Of course, the clip that I played reflects how smooth it gets to be. The first track got my heart rate going. I power washed my entire garage and put everything back in after the fact. I started power washing the driveway right outside of the garage so that later I didn't have to open the garage door to finish power washing. I couldn't sit still. That was part of the album. So there's a time for it. Now, unlike you two, I love when they mix electronic music with a horn. I'm a big fan of Grizz. And Grizz is a saxophone player, and it's EDM. It's electronic dance music. I love that kind of music. So to me, this album hit home. And so did Kamer, which I did listen to, which goes back to Rahamada, which goes back to Switch, Buoyancy, and Stitches. I listened to a bunch of his albums, not to mention the Jazz Punk Ensemblette, those two albums. So I covered a lot of his music this week because I wanted to hear the guitarist as well as Nils Petter on this. So to me, there's a place for it.
Okay, but overall, his line is very, very similar. All of those albums would sound similar, and if I played you a clip from Solid Ether and then I played you a clip from Khmer, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell me what album they're off of.
I'd tell you who it was, but I couldn't tell you what song or what album.
The recognizability factor is there.
Not like Working Man. I heard that song on a recording of last year's groups from Texas Jazz and Blues, and I was like, oh yeah, I can picture the cover too.
Yeah, but I feel like his motive is very, very similar on all the albums.
Yeah,
that I listened to this week. So I'm ready to rate. What about you guys? You ready to rate?
I'm good with that. Yeah.
I really want to hear Dad's overall thoughts of it.
Okay.
How did you take this? If it was a piece of food that you got to sample, what did you think about it?
Well, like you said earlier, the first two tracks actually, to me, were overwhelming. With push, drive, go, 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 beat 'em up. And I kept thinking, man, I hope the whole album is not like this, because I absolutely couldn't have taken it, especially because I don't sleep well at night, and so I'm not sure it was the first time I listened to the album, at 3 o'clock in the morning, yeah, it would have wakened me up, and I would not have been able to go back to sleep. But as you move through the album, you get the smooth, the rhythmic, the mellow, some of the other ways you described it previous. It's a likable album. It's a doable album, especially except for the first 1 or 2 tracks. Again, as you move through it, it's something that you might want to listen to. Yeah.
It reminds me that depending on who you're having the conversation with, would you recommend this album to somebody? Some people love vocal jazz. Some people love female vocal jazz and scat. Not everything is for everybody.
But we've got recommendations for those. If you like female vocal jazz, Ella Fitzgerald, go to her. Boom. Done.
Male vocal
jazz? You like male vocal jazz? Gregory Porter's your man. Go to Gregory Porter first and foremost. We covered Kurt Elling, but I wouldn't recommend him. But I didn't care for him because Gregory.
But if you've got somebody looking for that style of music, you might tell them to go listen to Kurt Elling. If they're really into, I'm thinking about if they're into the Rat Pack, if they're into that kind of music, then you'll say go check out Kurt Elling. Who was I really thinking about? If they're into, you mentioned him that day, Harry Connick Jr.
Okay.
Then Kurt Elling might be your go-to. But I'm not, again, Nels might be that go-to if somebody is into that Tool, for example.
All right. Okay.
Somebody you know that really loves Tool might appreciate the playing of Nels Petter.
I would suggest, with the caveat, don't judge the whole album by the first track or 2.
Yeah.
Move through it first.
Well, I mean, you can't judge a book by its cover or the first chapter. You got to read the whole book.
Yeah.
Man, that's a lot of pages.
Yeah.
It's been great discussion because I felt like I was the only one this week, and I'm glad. I'm not glad, but I'm at least I'm not the only one that had a hard time kind of getting the jazz out of this.
I'll be curious for you listening out there in YouTube land what your thoughts on this particular album are. We've listened to a lot of I have listened to a lot of other music from Nels Petter Molvar. However, if you just sampled this album, listen to it from beginning to end with the understanding and appreciation of what it is, and it is a jazz album listed as we go about playing the changes for the new millennium. What are your thoughts on this music? And for all of y'all that really loved Peter Broadsman as well, what are your thoughts on this particular album? And does this stretch you beyond what you're used to with Machine Gun, for example? So I look forward to the comments below. Matt, whoever, throw your numbers out. I'm curious.
Okay.
Let's upset the internet world.
All right, here we go. On craftsmanship, awareness, creativity, I gave a total for this album, Nels Petter Molvar, Solid Ether. I gave the total 7.5 is what I could go to. I want to tell you, I looked for reasons to dislike this album. I really did. I wanted to dislike it from the very first time I listened to it. And I kept thinking, it's not my jam. It's not my jam. But at a 7.5 on my list will mean that if I'm looking for a recommendation, I can't think of anything to listen to. I'm going to look through my list and say 7.5. It must be okay. Let's go back to it and listen to Solid Ether.
I like that.
Yeah, good. I rated it, surprisingly enough, at an 8.5 because of creativity, because of the awareness, because of the craftsmanship. I rated those very high. And so my score came out to 8.5. And I'm happy with that.
I'm happy with that too.
Yeah.
I am too. I honestly am surprised at both of you. Matt, I figured you might go a little bit lower. Dad, I figured you'd be a little bit lower as well. When I had first gone through this, I had put a 9 on my rating of that. Now, I had to go back, Matt, just like you said, through our criteria. So my first listen to Tuesday night, I was driving. It was 9 o'clock, 8:39 on the way to get Lily from tennis. So I'm listening to the first two songs while I'm trying to drive down a country road, paying attention for deer jumping out. I was a little not happy with the way it went. By the time I made the corner in the last 10 minutes of another county road, the music changed, and I thought, boy, oh boy, this is super, super cool. Wednesday morning, I finished the album, and I've gone to it multiple times since then. I couldn't sit on a 9 because the more I listened to it, everything matched. But it began to be the consistency over and over of almost the same music. To slow the tempo down, to speed the tempo up, to change the bass to a guitar, to change the guitar to a synth, it's really the same music. No offense to the people out there that love this music, because I did, but I settled as of this morning, again listening to the album, at an 8.5 for the album. It meets most all of our criteria. It is very creative. The awareness is what started to really hit me. When I think of the awareness in jazz terms, did the trombone player reference the trumpet player solo? Did the piano fill in when there was a break in the chords? Did they play together? With all of the electronic music humming in the background, I couldn't tell who was doing what and when. But that's when I stepped out and started listening to other albums from both Nels as well as the guitarist on this, which was, I'm not looking at his name right now, my bad. Solid Ether, the guitarist was?
Even Arset.
Yes.
Even Arset.
And
Yep.
he is a rocker. And so when I listened to his albums, I thought, my goodness, here we go. So I could see that flow happen a little bit better, the awareness, but it wasn't. It didn't help coming off of Lee Morgan last week, guys. It really did not.
I wrote, it's not sticking. It's just
Ooh.
not. It's just not sticking. You know, like you said, one song turns into another song, turns into another song. Changes. You know, the changes are there, but they're too subtle. It just didn't stick with me.
Gotcha. Well, what did stick with you this week? What's going on in your world?
Oh, am I up? Oh, okay, I'll go. Well, all right. Like you, I listened to Mirror. I also listened to MP3, and that's for the O2 release. The Jazz Baltica concert, I really dug. I went back because we seem to be on trumpet players the last several weeks. I went back to New High this week just to kind of cleanse my palate from Nils. I wanted to go back. You know, sometimes when we leave artists, I tend to miss them. I listen to them so much through the week, and then the next week or the week after, I tend to I don't want to lose the place in my heart. So I went back to Kenny Wheeler's New High. Of course, it's coming up on the St. Patrick's Day, and we had a busy weekend where I kind of almost took a break from jazz. We went down to the Get Green Festival downtown. Of course, my buddy Jason is DJing the whole event from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m., doing the fun run, doing the river greening, the Lucky Charms eating contest. But they had some live music this year, which was kind of new. It's a band I never heard from. They're from Fort Wayne, and they're called URB, which they're a ska kind of punk, kind of rock and roll, where they will start a song in ska, and then they'll morph into Billie Jean in the same style, and they'll sing Billie Jean, and then they'll morph back into. Is just really cool, and I'm surprised that I've never seen them before. But URB, you've got a new fan in me, that's for sure. We had a great time. They played for a couple hours, and standing down and in the sea of green and stuff going on under the tent. It was fun to watch them. Yesterday we went out to the winery to an event that they were having for St. Patrick's Day, and there was an Irish band, the McGinnis brothers, or Mickey McGinnis. I don't know. They were a good Irish band, and we really enjoyed sitting and listening to them for 3 hours yesterday. Left both events with our ears ringing, and they're still kind of ringing tonight. So if I'm talking a little loud, it's those those concert ears that I've got going on still ringing in my ears. But I had a great week in music, listening to Nels. I didn't really go off on Nels too much. I wanted to experience it all week, and maybe next week or 2 weeks from now, I'll come back to Nils because I'll miss him, but I don't think so.
So let me run my week down for you. Yesterday, your mom, Pat, and I went to see Footloose.
Yes.
And here at the Fort Wayne Civic Theater, we were drawn because of the musician. Lady D, Delaney, was the percussionist for this performance, for every performance of Footloose. And I was able to brag about her. There were two women sitting next to me, and they had the playbill, and I pointed to her name on the playbill. I said, "That's my granddaughter." And then I couldn't. Fortunately, your mom got involved in the discussion, so I could shut down. And they had, this back and forth kind of stuff. But it
You
was a
said that
big.
was your drum teacher.
Oh,
Right.
well, your mama told him that. Your mama told him that I'd taken lessons. They were not impressed by that at all, but they were impressed that she comes over on Wednesdays to have lunch with us. That impressed them. So anyway, I listened to Metheny this week, his album Letters.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
I didn't get all the way through First Circle with Metheny. I listened to probably half of that album. Then I tried to listen to Streamer by Molivar, and it struck me as way out there, difficult, hard, much too free, and I could only listen to one or two of the tracks of that. Also, we'll talk about this later, but a group called Motion and their album Motion One. I listened to a couple of their tracks on Motion One. And then somehow I have on my YouTube mix, YouTube music, not anyway, it was one track after another track after another track after another track, so many Miles tracks, Herbie Hancock tracks, Brubeck tracks. I had a Brad Maldau track.
oh.
Good heavens.
You had some good music in your ears this week.
I had a lot of music in my ears. Mangus.
Yeah.
Baby, that's the way to go. Coltrane. I think I sent you both that piece from
Mhm.
Alabama.
Yeah.
If you listen to that and watch that video, it almost brings tears to your eyes as you listen to that. So I'd suggest that our listeners, if they haven't already,
I'll put that link above
Yeah.
Matt's head. Go
yeah.
check out him playing.
So
Left hand.
then I listened to Cannonball Adderley, a track of his, and Charlie Hayden, Nocturnal. I
Oh,
mean, I had a lot of music in my ear this week, mostly because, again, I can't sleep at night, and so I'm absorbed in music, trying to soothe myself and get off to sleep. So that's my week in music.
Good.
Drew, what about you?
It's been a week. I've tried to stay with our artists this week as much as possible. I did veer left or right occasionally as the day need be, but I did put a lot of Roy Hargrove in my ears as I have gone back to Clark Terry. You've got to, in order to innovate, you've got to assimilate, but in first you have to imitate. So I've used that advice a lot. So if I am working on a new standard, I'd love to see if Roy Hargrove played it. If he did, then I want to listen to how he played it, not just the solo, but the head as well. So I've listened to a lot of his tunes this week on kind of repeat. I've been thinking more and more about the record player in the 50s. You know, you had a record. You listened to it. You listened to it until the grooves were worn down. But you got to really feel how it was being presented. And I think I want to be more intentional in listening to stuff as the weeks progress. So that's been my week. I've got a few things I'll talk about next week after this week has come and gone. But, Dad, what's coming up next week? What's new?
Hey, what's new is Motion 2 group, and the album is called Out of and Into. It's a Blue Note, recorded and produced, and it came out on December the 5th of 2025.
Did I get that wrong? Hang on. I got October 22nd of 25.
Well, I could have it wrong as well.
I'm probably wrong. iTunes is telling me October 22nd, 2025.
Okay. So I got it wrong.
I don't ever trust the iTunes thing because they've told you that new albums were dropped in 2023 and they were dropped in 1963. So chuck that out the door. If it's not on the record label, don't quote it.
Okay.
It's 40 minutes long, and the people at Jazz Word magazine had this to say about it. It's a band that understands how to let groove lead and structure follow. So you're going to feel the groove of this album as you listen to it. And because there's no structure doesn't mean there's not structure in it. The structure follows. So I like that idea. I like that the whole album. So Motion 2, that's what I recommend.
Yeah. It's a great album. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Good.
I like the vibes on it, of course. Anytime that there's vibes on a jazz album,
right?
It gets me excited. All right, Drew, why don't you tell them what's next?
I've been waiting all week to do this. It's somebody that I've mentioned over and over and over again, just on a kind of fact that you get to know him through the 3-part series called Zero Gravity about Wayne Shorter. Danilo Perez is who we are going to be looking at next week. This is out of the 2000 category from the book Playing Changes. The album is called Motherland, and it was on the Verve Music Group. It contains 13 songs, 56 minutes total. Danilo Perez is a Panamanian pianist, composer, educator, and a social activist, according to Wiki. For me, the fact that he's played with Dizzy, he's played with Wayne Shorter, he's played with, yes, kind of everybody. He's been there, done that, and he plays a beautiful, beautiful piano. So to me, it's a big deal to come up and listen to Danilo Perez, Motherland.
Is this going to be, and don't give much away, but is it going to be Brad Maldell piano or is it going to be Jeremy Ledbetter piano?
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
I won't say, if I think of Brad, I think more of that classical style, unless you go to Jacob's Ladder. I would think that he kind of falls right in the middle of it. As a composer and arranger who studied the sound with Wayne Shorter, if you think about Allegria,
yes,
that's Danilo.
Okay.
Think about how he flows. He also is reminded throughout the whole process they've got to hear your voice. So you can copy all you want, but play you. Do you. Play the keys as if it's you, and he does.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I have not previewed one song off this album since creating the slideshow on yesterday.
Then I cannot wait until next week to hear what y'all think about Danilo. It's not going to hurt my feelings if you don't love it. We're coming off of a banging album this week, Solid Ether, which took you out to a different place that made you challenge jazz. I'm going to say that Motherland may actually bring you back to a classical concept as well as truly what jazz from Wayne Shorter's style might have looked like just from smooth piano playing.
Good deal.
It's also interesting that this is a Panamanian guy.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we just got done with the Norwegian.
Yeah. It's global, baby. It's global.
Love it. All right. Hey, thanks so much for watching this long and sticking with us. Please do not hesitate to leave us comments. We would love to hear what you've got to say about Nels Petter, what you've got to say about Danilo Perez, or any of our other past episodes. Please do not hesitate to leave us comments, and we will get back with you as soon as we can.
All right, kids.
Yep.
Until
All right.
next week.
Thanks so much.
Sayonara.